Okay, Miss Elizabeth, you are all set, and the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Good morning, everyone. Has everyone had their, I can't hear you. You can't hear? Okay. Did you test the audio? Not at all.
Hey, Miss Rachel, on your screen in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see a mute button and a start video button. Are you doing this on a phone or, whoops, there she's gone.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, you can. You're good to go.
Yay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So
I don't see everybody. There we go. I see you.
I don't see. I think we're missing one, aren't we? Let's see, one more.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Yes.
All I see is you.
All you see is me. Okay, let's
Yeah.
we want you to see everyone. Let's see how we can work.
So there's a plus and a minus on my bottom square at the right. I see myself and you.
let's see, okay, at the bottom, do you see where it says participants? Does it allow you to see that?
No, I just see a plus and a minus sign and myself in a square at the bottom right, and I see you larger in the front.
Are you on a computer or on a phone or an iPad?
iPad.
iPad. Okay, on the
iPad Pro.
Okay, swipe to the right for me, or actually swipe to the left.
Swipe to the left. Okay, it's not working. Should I hit the plus sign to do anything?
I'm not sure if it's a plus or a minus. It should just be a swipe left or swipe right to see the different screens.
No. Switch camera?
No, no, you're on the right camera.
Live on YouTube, share contact, participants.
No. I'm talking about just anywhere on the screen, like in an open area.
Yeah, I am, and it's not working.
Not moving. Do you see anything with a button that says gallery view versus speaker view?
I don't. Oh, gallery view.
There you go.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Now I see everybody. Do y'all see me?
Yes.
We got you.
Okay, good.
I'm just looking for Alderwoman Petrelli. I was going to make sure she's not in a different room. Let me see here. Let's see here.
She's coming on right now.
Is she okay? Good. There she is. Okay. I think we're full house now. Hello.
Hi.
Hi,
Morning.
good morning. Okay, we'll go ahead and I want to be respectful of your time. I know a lot of you are busy with your businesses and so forth, but did everyone receive their the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. And then I also sent out a breakdown, so I want to make sure that you have that as well before we start. Okay. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is now 9:04 on Thursday, July 30th, 2020. And the first order of business is the previous meeting minutes that we had on June 4th, 2020. Was there any changes or anything? Anyone have questions over that? Anything need to be discussed before they're approved? Okay. We've got to get you all energetic today, this morning. I think I've y'all been going all morning already. And also, I know we discussed it at the last June 4th meeting, but again, we want to welcome, because it's official, welcome new board member Rachel McCauley.
Thank
So
you.
excited about that. Thank you. And the third order of business is Resolution 2020-38, which is the resolution recognizing July 26th as the anniversary of the ADA Act. And it was adopted July 14th, 2020 by the city. It was signed off on. So that's a positive for us, and it allows the community to know that we are aware of what's going on and that we are advocating for them. So I think that's great. I know I mentioned to you all, it was posted on Facebook, on social media, and the city page. So that's a good thing. The fourth order of business is the community ADA concerns. So one of the issues was the area of Indian Lake Road and Trout Valley Drive. I did have an email, someone emailed me, and they were saying that the sidewalk there was not ADA compliant. And again, that's Indian Lake Road and Trout Valley Drive. And I did speak with the road superintendent, Trace Burkett, and Sarah, of course, the traffic engineer. She's aware as also. I communicated with her, but Trace it's something that he can fix. He said that it wasn't completed, like the sidewalk wasn't completed. So he's taking pictures, and we'll have that to be able to. It's been logged, and so that's been taken care of, or being taken care of. And the fifth order of business is one of the grants. And if Sarah, if you could, do you mind going over the grant that Marshall was discussing, you all?
Yes, so there are different grant types, of course, that the city can apply for. And the consultant who's doing our transition plan actually brought up that the multimodal grant through TDOT's federal dollars would be a really good one to try and repair like a corridor or a section of a corridor for sidewalk and curb ramps and all of those things that have already been assessed as like high priority. And so they agreed to go ahead and do the letter of intent, which was due tomorrow, and I actually submitted it this morning, pro bono, which was nice. And then we'll negotiate fees for the full application if we're selected. So the section that they identified was Main Street from Executive Park Drive to Sanders Ferry, which is really good because a lot of that was considered high priority through the transition plan. And this grant is a 95-5 split. So the federal dollars pay 95% and the city would only be responsible for 5%, which is fantastic because a lot of them are 80-20.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think it's $1 million cap. And I think she said what their initial estimate was just below that cap, which the estimate's probably very conservative. So it won't be that much probably, in actuality, but it's really good opportunity, and hopefully we get selected to submit for that.
And the scope of work would be for sidewalks and curbs. What is the scope?
Yeah, the scope would be all pedestrian access between those 2 points on Main Street to make sure that all of it connecting there, well, it is connected. I believe there's connection the whole way, but to make sure there's connection, and then also to reconstruct every bit of it, basically, to make sure it's all compliant. And
What do they do with, because, that's part of the original part of town where there are telephone poles or any type of utility poles in the way of a curb down. Do they just shift the access point back and then go?
that's an option. One consideration over in that section of town, because like you said, it is so old, is right-of-way issues.
Okay.
Which is what we've run into with our traffic synchronization project that we put out to construction the last minute. They're like, oh, you don't have right-of-way here, even though it's right up against the sidewalk. So that's a consideration, but that's something that we can work through in the design process if we are selected for the grant.
That's
So
great.
are they going to take into account the new work that's going to happen there and straightening out the Walton Ferry, Old Shackle Island intersection?
That's a
Yeah,
good
they would
point.
be. Yes, we would look at those plans and coordinate that. Yes.
When will y'all know?
I believe that's a good question. I believe the final submittal date is the end of October.
Okay.
So I'm not sure exactly at what point they would let us know whether we were selected to, provide a full application or not.
Do they need supporting testimonial or anything from anybody in the community for the grant?
I believe, so I did a TAP grant application last year and we weren't selected, but part of that was we had to have a community meeting and no one showed up for it, but it's advertised and folks come in and share comments or concerns or whatever. And so, yes, that's the long answer is yes. It's
Okay.
beneficial to have.
Just keep us posted because we can get that advertised and get that up and going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's exciting.
It is. Yeah.
It is exciting. Good news.
Okay, so the next number 6 was discussion of the ADA Board and Grievance Committee, and that was one of the questions that we all were going over just to have clarification to make sure we're all on the same page. And did you all have a chance to review it or have any questions?
Yes.
Okay. So if you don't mind, what I'm going to do is just go down each list, because I want to, where it looks, okay, so for example, on the first part, it says ADA Board and Grievance Committee breakdown. So we have that portion is covered. We have the 5 members. The staff advisor is myself, and then alderman. And if there's if you see anything that's different from what I'm saying, but this is the breakdown that I saw. And Alderwoman Petrelli, I was going to ask you about the area of the voting because that's coming up. So Alderman liaison representative is Alderwoman Peg Petrelli, and she's also the liaison to the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. And then it goes on to say of the 5 ADA appointed members, at least 1 member shall be disabled, at least 1 should be a licensed healthcare provider, and at least 1 member should be experienced in construction. So we have that area covered. Are there any questions so far? Because I'm going through it pretty. Okay, and then the next step is what we talked about the election of 3 board members. And we have to make sure that each is confirmed, that the members have been appointed and confirmed. So we're needing a chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary, which brings us to now, this point. So Alderwoman Petrelli, can you advise as far as voting for the members? In the past, how did you all take care of that portion before?
We have not voted. We have had discussions because we did not have a chairman because we never had a full, I think only our first meeting did we have the full committee present.
Yes.
So, that's what has occurred in the past.
Okay. And when we discussed going on, are you all comfortable today going ahead and voting for the members, as we had discussed doing that today?
I would wait until the next meeting. When is your next meeting planned?
October. I was going to see what we were going to try to do quarterly. So October, and I guess we all should look at our calendars and see what you all have available. It looks like then, I know Thursdays works best. Is that correct? For everyone on a Thursday?
I'm
before or
good.
by
Anytime in October, I'm good.
Okay. So you all, if you look, I know we've,
Do you want to go for the 22nd?
I'm fine with that. Does that work for everyone? 22nd of October, and we can plan to vote on that day. 9 a.m. Okay, so is everyone okay with that? October 22nd on a Thursday at 9 a.m. Okay, I'm getting a lot of nods. I think we're good to go. Okay. And then the next portion was the Grievance Committee. And that was one of the questions I know we discussed. It says the committee consists of 3 members appointed by the mayor and approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and must be residents of the city of Hendersonville at the time of their appointment. 1 will be the chairperson of the ADA board. So I've listed each of those. So that's another area that we have to, maybe we can do that discuss that further on the 22nd, but it does say that the mayor has to be the one to approve that, and the alderman. Do you have any more input on that, Alderwoman Petrelli, as far as on the Grievance Committee?
No, I think that's fine. I mean, everybody serves at the leisure of the mayor. I just think we need to move forward with this election to keep this committee on track, especially now that we have you. Finally.
Thank you. And was there any, that was the main thing. I know the voting portion and is getting clarification on what each of our roles are, but does anyone else have any input? Because you guys you're making it very easy for me here. Do you have any questions or anything that you see on here that is that you have questions about, or that you need me to that's happened in the community you've come across? I know right now we're just organizing and putting it all together, but I just want to make sure that there's anything that you all need.
This is Barbara Brennan. I don't have any questions so far. Well, I did have one. I didn't catch what the company was that we were working with on the grant, but that's simple. But I assume we would nominate people to be on the grievance committee that we might know in the community. I had a person in mind that is disabled from a stroke, and I think he might be willing to serve. And I didn't know the process for that. I don't mind approaching him, or if the mayor does that, or if you do as the liaison from the city.
Okay. And that's one of the questions that I will get with the mayor on and ask just to confirm that, because that is, and it says disabled and not a member of the ADA board. So if you don't mind, if you want to ask him and see if, make sure he or she is, that's something that they want to do. And then I can let the mayor know, and Alderwoman Petrelli, if you have any insight on that, if that's okay to do. But I definitely will get with him to see.
Okay, I'll ask the gentleman I'm thinking of, and then if he's amenable to that, I will pass that on to Mayor Clary.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so the grievance committee is composed of, say it again, of whom?
Okay, so on the grievance committee, this committee consists of 3 members appointed by the mayor and approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and must be residents of the city of Hendersonville at the time of their appointment. 1 will be the chairperson of the ADA board. So once we have that, the 3 members that we discussed, one will come from that. The second one must be disabled and not a member of the ADA board. And that individual must be appointed by the mayor and BOMA. And then the third person is also must be disabled and not a member of the ADA board. So we'll need two.
Okay, because I've got another gentleman who would be willing to serve and would meet that criteria as well.
Okay.
So I'll see if he is still interested in that and available, and then that could possibly fulfill the 2 slots.
Okay, that'll be great then.
Again, this is Barbara Pegg. I think that's a great idea. I was just crossed my mind. We might want to have a little bit of discussion about how do we have a good representation of the type of disability. So I'm thinking one might be one with limited sight versus one with other mobility issues. Those two, not necessarily a wheelchair, but someone with mobility issues. It would be ideal to have someone with a hearing issue, but I think for the kinds of things we look at, probably vision and physical mobility might be the 2 biggest pieces. So the gentleman I'm thinking of has a physical issue, but and your gentleman might also. So I don't mind trying to think and see if I know someone who is legally blind or has other sighted things. I really have seen, I cannot remember seeing people navigating the city that I see have a visual impairment that's evident. So I've not seen anybody trying to navigate, but there probably is someone.
I believe there is, if it would take some searching, but I know some emails came in about signage in the city years ago that they did not meet ADA with height, and it was a problematic for folks who were legally blind.
Hopefully they're not driving, Peg.
Say again?
Said hopefully you're not driving.
Right now, yeah, no, it was actually through the Indian Lake corridor. So
Yeah.
I might have to actually reach out to our previous codes director because I handled it with him. And so honestly, that was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that'll take me some digging around to try to figure out, and maybe she would be willing to serve.
Okay.
But if we don't, I think that's a great idea, Ms. Brennan. Sometimes the issue is folks are not able to serve, so we'll just, kind of keep it soft, but I agree with your points.
Barbara, to answer your question regarding the consultant, it's Kimley Horn.
Oh, so they're the ones that have done the assessment.
Yes.
Okay.
And they did the pro bono letter of interest or letter of intent for the grant as well.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, sorry.
Can you guys hear me pretty well?
I can, yes.
Okay. I just have a quick question about the chairperson, because down at the bottom it says the mayor appoints, and at the top it sounds like we appoint. Is it the same chairperson on the Grievance Committee that is on the board?
Yes. So according to the procedure, it says that the chairperson, chairperson of the ADA must be appointed by the mayor and approved by BOMA. So it's the same.
So we don't vote for a chairperson. The mayor appoints that chairperson for this board, or is there 2 different chairpersons, one for the Grievance Committee and one for this board?
Hold on, let me go back to it. Let me go up here. Hold on one moment.
Sorry, the chairman of the ADA board, I believe, also serves on the Grievance Committee. So everybody on this board by way of nature has been appointed by the mayor and approved by BOMA. So you all, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Elizabeth, is you all vote on your chairman, and then that person, I believe, has the dual roles, correct?
That's the way I understood it.
Yeah.
Now I have not spoken directly with the mayor, but that's the way I understood it. It was the same chairperson, but then because it says chairperson of the ADA board.
You might actually check with Chris Taylor. I know he's got a lot going on right now, but typically, because until you came along, HR fulfilled the role of not only the liaison, but the person that people could submit concerns to. And so I know Peter had very thoroughly investigated all that, because it did take some time to understand how, because the point is to have one person on the ADA board connected to
The
grievance board. So that way there's continuity in discussion of issues going on that can be brought back to you all. So that was my understanding. So the mayor does not appoint the chairman of the disability, I believe.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the ADA board.
That's my understanding as well. I received Peter's files after he left and before Elizabeth was formally hired, and I had gone through, and he had kind of a diagram, and that is the way it was represented as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Garten? I'm sorry. Okay. So we will, as you all said, on this for number 7, we discussed voting, so we will move that to October 22nd for the chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. And number 8 is other business. Is there any other business that you all want to discuss, or have? I think we went over some things, but
I guess I'll mention something because we had it at the BOMA meeting, Elizabeth, I guess about a month ago. But just like with paving in town or stormwater management projects, things that come to BOMA through constituents. They've encountered something out in the community, like a pothole or a horribly paved road or whatever, and it becomes a priority because it's been brought to your attention. And with ADA, as we start the process of making improvements in town based on the limited funds that we have, you know, even as an alderman, it's hard for me to say to a constituent, hey, I understand your road is in poor condition, but here's where it's at on the list. You're 2 years down the road. I hear you, your road is not acceptable, but this is literally where we're at. So we had a situation come up in BOMA where a gentleman was concerned about an ADA situation in their HOA. And, you know, we just have to make sure that Elizabeth is aware of the situation, and Sarah, or whatever process you all decide. But just because it's brought to our attention doesn't mean it automatically bumps to the top of the list, you know, unless it's an emergent situation where it's a life safety issue or something like that. But it's hard to tell people, hey, I hear you, we're going to get that taken care of in the next year, because sometimes that's not the reality of the situation. But Sarah, I don't know if you can maybe explain that better, or maybe a process of how we submit issues like that besides for grievance board.
Yeah. So in the training that I've been to for ADA and how to kind of manage those requests, yes, we have the ADA transition plan now, and it's not 100% complete, but we do have high priority areas that have been assessed. But my understanding is when we receive requests or we are notified of an area that is inaccessible for whatever the reason may be, whether it's a section of sidewalk that's sunk and there's a 3-inch separation, or they don't have curb ramps, which I think is probably the one that you might be speaking of, is in Savannah. Was that the one that
Yes.
came? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so my understanding is when we get those requests, they become high priority.
Okay.
Because we have citizens that are saying, hey, I need access here and I don't have it. And so that kind of does, it's a little bit different. It does go to the top of the list if we're able to do it.
Okay.
So Trace is actually working with the guys to pour those curb ramps.
Okay. So if we as citizens get a request like that, should we submit them to Elizabeth? What would be the process for doing that? They submit it to Elizabeth and Elizabeth relays it to you. They submit it to me as a politician. I submit it to you all. What would be the best way, since we're all on this board?
I think that's something we're still working through, but I think having Elizabeth as the point person for all requests, that way she can log them when we get them and keep up with making sure that we're addressing requests, because it's really important to have that one person who's tracking and making
Exactly.
sure these things are coming to fruition. And I think my opinion is, I think she's the appropriate contact.
Okay.
This is Barbara. I agree. That sounds like a good process. We might want to consider, you're right, not everything can be done right away, but there might need to be a mechanism that we give within a certain period of time. Sarah and or Elizabeth or somebody on the committee, something like that, goes out to see what the situation is, to help decide what level of safety that creates, and have a mechanism of communication back to the person who brought it forward, so that we can help with that message, Peg, that we have limited funds. We went out within 24 hours, evaluated the situation. We put a sign there or whatever, and it doesn't rise to the level of stopping other work to do it, but it's in the mill or something like that. So I think that would give Sarah and Elizabeth some leeway. Are there ways to identify a situation and alert that it's a problem or something like that? And I think that speaks to how we message back to our public that we heard you and there aren't unlimited funds. And then maybe even let the alderman of that ward know that we heard it, we responded, this was our response, so that we speak with one voice and can really make sure that communication is good. And then maybe we put it on our page under an ADA section to say, here's a concern that's been raised, this is what we did. And maybe it's putting gravel in a hole temporarily, a temporary patch or something like that. I just think that might be a good way to allow citizens to know that we're really hearing.
Yes.
Agree.
Perfect. Well, and with the new subdivisions in town, and I know Mr. Stanton can speak to this as well, with him being in construction, and Brad as well. Like with Savannah, I don't know how old Savannah is. To me, it's brand new because I'm an old timer. So I don't know if it's 10 years old or 20 years old. I have no idea. But with the new subdivisions in town, when they go through planning, I'm assuming that they're held to every, and not just subdivisions, but new buildings, because we had a situation with a building 3 years ago behind City Hall. It was some type of a dental complex or something. Anyway, a woman tripped because of the slope. It was not properly laid with the concrete, and she tripped and really hurt herself. And so I spoke to Steve Mills. This is prior to our ADA being established. And so codes went out and said, hey, you've got to retroactively fix this. So what stipulations do we have on all new building construction, and what is the time frame that they are compliant? I'm assuming that everybody has to be compliant, but if they're not, how is that addressed? Is that addressed during the building process through codes?
Yes, if codes catches it. Yeah. For sidewalk, that's not always the case. We have Tommy now, who's our construction engineering inspector.
Okay.
And he has his smart level, and he checks those now.
Okay.
And maybe Brad and Mike have different experiences.
Well, I was going to ask, are our codes inspectors trained in ADA compliancy?
They are, yeah.
I mean, that you still have to hold as a contractor. I'm going to be held to that standard. Even if I remodel an existing building, I have to bring it up to ADA compliance.
Mm-hmm.
So, even if we miss it and it's missed by the codes inspection, you're still going to have to retroactively fix it, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think up until the point of final CO, I think that's the point where the city, and maybe Steve Mills had a different way of working with that, but my understanding is that once they receive their certificate of occupancy or UNO, that we've accepted it.
I agree with that, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
As far as Savannah's concerned, it was built in 2004. I was one of the first builders in there. First, I actually built my personal house in there, and that was a case where the developer went out of business, and the city, I think, maybe credit and then finished some of the sidewalks and the ramps weren't put in. But for us, we show them on our construction plans that gets approved by engineering before we develop, and then we have to post a bond in most cases to make sure the sidewalks are in.
Yeah.
And then we didn't make the builder make sure that as they're building the houses, put those in and are inspected by the city. So I'm sure back then the codes were a little bit different than they are today, but
That's true.
from what I experienced in the multiple cities we develop in, most of them are pretty much on top of it now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. See, for me, 2004, that's a brand new subdivision. Thank you for the clarification on that.
I don't think ADA is through the plan review process. I don't think that there was anyone who had received a whole lot of training as to what, the requirements were. And so I think that a lot of, the cross slope issue and the running slope and all of those things, I think those have been in place for quite a long time, but I'm not sure that, well, I know that through the construction process, no one was checking. We didn't have a smart level out there checking sections and making sure that we were, compliant before we accepted subdivisions or gave COs or any of that. So I know that now we do that. I review plans for both traffic and for ADA. So I'm checking the signage and I'm checking those, the slopes, the grades that are proposed. I'm checking all of those things now, and not perfect. May miss a thing here too, but here and there, but we're doing a much better job. We shouldn't have plans going through where we're not providing access, big picture. We should be in really good shape for new development.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Sarah.
And back to Ms. Brennan's, I was going to say that the one, and I can also email you all as they come in, but an example was the issue with the Indian Lake area that I brought up earlier. I did email the gentleman back and let him know that Trace was, working on, so that, like you said, so that they're aware of what's going on, that they're being heard. So I think that was a great point. But and I can also email you all as well so that you're aware. But was there any other questions or concerns? Yes.
Okay, I'll put myself out there.
Yes.
Due to past experience with family members, that have been handicapped and are now, is there anything we can do for families that are out there trying to shop, try to go into stores, try to do things, and they have the proper handicap tag, they have the proper handicap, permit on their mirror, and people really are not, they're parking wherever and they're not supposed to, and families tend to just go home or decide not to shop there. It's inconvenient. They don't want to call it in, or they come back and they're trying to get in their vehicle and people are parked in the wrong spot. Is there anything to do for those families that get frustrated, for those not properly parking, that don't have the proper tag and so on? I just wanted to consider those out there that are, really wanting to shop or really wanting to stop, but they can't because people are parked in the handicapped spot when they're not supposed to.
I just think more awareness is, and which I think we're trying to, do. I think the more that people, we keep bringing it up, just like we talked about the as far as the July 26th appreciation, like bringing that awareness, because people, if it's not them, they forget about it. But just maybe from their social media outlets and our website to show that the city is backing them. I did have a call from one of the businesses in the community, and they had called me and they were asking about their parking lot. They were saying it was on West Main. They were trying to figure out if they had the right, if everything was up to compliance. They had to have so many parking spaces. So they, they were trying to make sure that they had two different businesses in the one building, and they wanted to know, how do I have enough in the back and the front? And I gave them the information that they needed. So I think businesses are aware,
Mhm.
the community, just bringing awareness to them through our website. And but I don't, Sarah or Alderman Petrelli,
Um, and I think you're right, Elizabeth. I think awareness is the biggest part of that. And if maybe I don't know, if we posted reminders on the city's Facebook account to please be considerate of those who need these spaces, something like that. But I would encourage, Rachel, if you come across people that are having this this issue, I would really encourage them to reach out to the businesses, because I think businesses want to be compliant. And also, they're supposed to have a tow company, or they can call the police even, and the police can call a tow company and have them towed. And you know, if people start hearing this happens, they'll stop parking there.
I was going to say, I was a volunteer police officer in this city for 20 years, and that was my favorite ticket to write, was somebody parking in a handicap spot. Placard. So, and it's not just that. What a lot of people don't understand is the placard is assigned to a specific person. So if, let's say, a young child of a handicapped person drives their car to a Kroger and parks it in a handicapped spot, that is illegal, and they can be cited because they are not handicapped. It does not go to the car, it goes to the person.
Okay.
So I would encourage your folks, if they see people parked in a handicapped spot, call the police, because most of the officers I know enjoy writing that ticket.
Yeah, I think it's gotten a bit lax of just people pulling in, pulling out, rainy day, and it really inconvenience family, and they don't want to make that call. They just will leave and just not deal with it and go somewhere else or get frustrated. So, okay. Thanks.
okay. Well, if there is no other, did you have something? Oh, I think you're muted there. I'm sorry.
I had a couple things I wanted to bring up. One, perhaps you could, Elizabeth, could you draft a 1 or 2 line script and share it with us, and then each of us perhaps in our social media can put that out and say, we have the privilege of serving on this committee, and we have had issues where people are inappropriately using handicap spots, which limits our ability of some of our handicapped citizens to use those areas. So in a spirit of cooperation and neighborliness, we ask that you honor that, and please be aware that we do have the ability to tow your vehicle if we see a violation. Something that's very positive, but it also has consequences. And probably between the 6 or 8 of us, we can get to a whole lot of people with a very positive message that we want to do the right things for our neighbors. And so this is, I usually, when I'm sending things out like this, I usually say, this is a gentle reminder of, so that it really is taken in the spirit in which it's intended. So that's just a suggestion, rather than have each of us choose our own words, versus we agree that this is the message we can all share. And I think that's helpful. And then I wanted to bring up one other thing. I get the Tennessean, and on Friday last week, they had a huge article about how the ADA is not a blanket exception related to masks. And I pulled it out because I thought it was really helpful. So I don't know if you can go back, Elizabeth, and find that and maybe share it with the group. But again, this could be very interesting. And it was in the fact finder section from the USA Today, which is national. But it just says somebody can't come up and say, well, I'm disabled because I have a stuffy nose or whatever, and say, therefore, I'm exempt from wearing a mask. So I thought this would be useful for us to look at as a committee. And then I think it would be useful to share with our officers and others that interact in the public that may get into some of these interactions in the stores where people get indignant, that sort of thing, and pull that out of their pocket, to be armed with this about how it's very specific, how it does not apply to that. And so anyway, I just thought that might be helpful. And it was the Tennessean on Friday, July 17th, and it was by Matthew Brown at a USA Today, Elizabeth. And it was that fact-finding thing. And then I just saw another one yesterday. What was it? It was another thing related to this. I didn't pull it out, but I can look at the paper yesterday. But I just thought that would be particularly relevant for us and might help our officers and just in general, all of our businesses that may be dealing with that and are trying to come up with, do they say something or not? And then you get these people that just turn into Karen and get indignant. So I just thought I'd share that.
I think those are both great ideas. And this is just my 2 cents on the messaging. I know at City Hall, and it's beyond my purview, but when we have links to information on the Facebook page, I don't think they're as effective as a graphic image with information. Because if you just have the simple message in a graphic, people are, from what I've seen, more apt to quickly read it and share it versus here's a link to this, and then people just don't pay attention to that. So I think that's a great idea about the messaging, about the parking spaces, Barbara, but just some type of a graphic. Is that something that you could do for us, Elizabeth?
Yes, I can.
Okay. That way I think it is important to be consistent in message. Thank y'all.
Okay, and speaking of, like, even I'll see, we get with Sarah and Marshall, but just to see if, as far as a page, I don't know if that's something we can discuss it, Sarah, if you yay or nay on that, but just a page, like a Facebook page that's specific to the ADA, you know.
I love that idea.
I do too. That'd be nice.
So that they can have,
Get with IT, I think, and see what our permissions are for something like that. I'm not sure.
But I mean, that would help, you know, when you were mentioning, so everything is in one location. I know we shared stuff on Facebook for just for the celebration of the ADA Day, but just so that there's one area, so that, like you were just saying, Ms. Brennan, with the information you have, then it can be shown for, you know, it's in a central location. So it's organized and the page could be shared.
I think that would be great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go ahead and work on the draft of the script and do a graphic. That's no problem at all. And so right now, where we are at this point, did you have anything else, Ms. Brennan? I know you said you had a few points.
No, I mean, I just think that all the ways we can communicate are really very helpful. And then whatever we message or do like that, Peg, if we can be sure the other aldermen have it so they know what actions our group is taking and that we want to message so that they say exactly the same thing and really be real intentional about saying we're all saying the same thing, you know, and that way no one can inadvertently get juxtaposed to the other person or the alderman or their personal feeling if we're being tasked with doing this. And then, you know, as we go forward and as we as a group learn more, it might be nice one day if maybe when we see a few issues, or Sarah, as we're learning, and certainly the codes folks need to be our experts too, we might want to take a road trip someday and say, here's a couple of the issues that have been brought up to us. And if we can learn a little bit more, I'm pretty familiar with what the angles have to be and how other cities have done things with texture in some of their slopes and sidewalks so that people can tell when they're coming to a curb and you know, the different bells that go off for people that are sight limited, that sort of thing. But I think if we became aware of that, then I'd love to be able to proactively let you know, Elizabeth, that I saw something before somebody complains about it. And I think that's a good idea. I love now, as we're fixing some of the drainage issues, I see the sign up that says, I don't know what it says, a water abatement issue or something like that. Because I thought to myself, well, that's a message to somebody that we can't do everything, but we heard you and we're working on it. So I think anything we can do to indicate that we're on board, and I love the idea of a separate page. On the other hand, what crossed my mind, because of all my years of experience, is part of what May said, be careful what you ask for, because if we put a page out there like that, we're liable to be inundated with things that we can't address because of limited things. So we might want to just, with some degree of caution, how do we manage those things so that we get things done, don't bite off more than we can chew, or give the impression that once you put a message on a Facebook page, somebody's magically going to see it and automatically fix it, so that we exceed expectations and don't set some that we can't readily meet. So I think we have an opportunity to be very proactive and very helpful about those things. So that's just another thought.
I agree. And I probably would suggest, if we are able to do it, to turn the comments, maybe off until we're ready to, till just so it's more of an, they just, I mean, they can, they can communicate with us of email, and just give them, let them know they can email us and so forth. So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe just always have a disclaimer at the bottom of the post. If you have any concerns or issues you'd like to report, please contact our ADA coordinator directly. Something to that nature, so they know that is not the way that they communicate their issue or report issues.
Well, thank you all. And if there is no other business, has everyone addressed any questions or concerns that they have? I'm trying to look at your smiling faces. Okay. Well, if there's no other business, I know we said the October 22nd on a Thursday at 9 a.m. will be our next meeting, and everyone was in agreement with that. And I will follow up as far as Sarah did confirm. You did confirm that, Sarah, about the chairperson. So I think we're good there. But other than that, I think the meeting will be adjourned at this point. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Bye.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you all.